Test, test, 1, 2. All right, yeah, that seems to be working. Okay. Oh, doesn't seem to be using my little dragon there. That's all right, just figuring it out. There we go. Oh, hey, Connor. Playing League of Legends at the same time? Ah, that's all right. Oh. How does it look, though? You can see the stream and stuff like that? Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah, this seems to work pretty well. What do we got here? Yeah. Maybe watch the polity stream again. Do you have any questions about that stuff? There's 2 people watching. That's absurd. And so you're just mapping out the climates using the elevations as reference. Yeah, so when I made this map for the when I made this map, which I use in the chariots video, but I'm gonna use hopefully much longer than that. I had already done a climate sketch, and this very this very rough topography map, this kind of noodle design was what I had originally done for what I had originally done for the topography and to figure out the elevation. I don't think this actually has the key on it, but the dark green there is 0 to 250. The slightly lighter green is 250, 500. The light green, lime green, grass green kind of color is 500 meters to 1 kilometer. And then yellow is 1 to 2 kilometers, orange is 2 to 3 kilometers, and then we get the reds, that's 3 kilometers plus. And so I've already gone out and kind of mapped what the different elevations would look like in the corner here. So we've got, at sea level, it's generally around 21, 22 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit different over here, where we get closer to 24 degrees Celsius. And that's important because there is a seasonal shift in this southern region where it does go below 18 degrees in the winter. In the southern hemisphere is a winter. And that means instead of being in a climate, it is instead a C climate. So in some of this region, we will see CFA, but otherwise we won't have any hot summer continental climates. Hello, Jake. Just talking about some of the climate stuff. And so I was able to but the degree to which that the summers are above 21, 22 degrees, which would matter for a CFS, the distinction between a CB and a CA climate only really matters along that coast. Otherwise, there's no real everything else is going to be everything else that is not tropical or a desert will at sea level or shortly or just slightly above it will be CFB. And I've already figured out what those are. So up here, so around half a kilometer in elevation, we're going to get the 18 degrees. So that's where the CB climates start. And then at the around 1.3 kilometers, it's 12 degrees, and that is where we're going to see the CSC climates, or the CC climates, which there will be a decent amount of just because of how elevated things are. And then around 1.7 kilometers to 3 kilometers will be the tundras. But it's not. At least we know that the pseudo horsies, it's jumper weather. Yes, and that's why the pseudo horsies have their jumpers, because they live in this kind of area here, and in these highlands in this cold desert there. So they're going to need their jumpers. And around 3 kilometers is where the ice starts. Oh, hello, Madeline. Can't say long to pop in. Thank you so much. I'm just figuring out my setup here so I can kind of stream these, working on things. Yeah, then the EF climates, the ice caps and the glaciers and things do start around 3 kilometers above sea level. But the issue is that these glaciers are advancing. They are growing glaciers. They're not retreating glaciers. So they tend to go further down than 3 kilometers. So, 2.5 kilometers, 3 kilometers. I mean, glaciers can have quite a long toe, and they can extend quite a bit out. And because much of the ice fields here are pretty substantial, they do kind of expand beyond where they otherwise would go. And of course, in here, for example, if I take off my climate layers for a sec, not all of that is above, 2.5 kilometers. It's just that the glaciers start to fill in all of the valleys that are in those mountains, and effectively build up into being EF anyway. But yeah, so right now it's just a matter of kind of going through and outlining. And I do have a bit of a general, don't like that. I do have a bit more of a general climate map for Dove as a whole planet. But I don't know whether or not I necessarily will use that or want to use that. I mean, to some extent, the climate maps aren't really for me. They're just something to have on the screen to kind of communicate certain pieces of information to the audience. And they're also something, for the audience to look at. Because, I already know what the climates are of the various regions, because I've already gone through the process of looking at the precipitation and modeling that and those sorts of things. Yeah. Also, I find doing the precipitation, doing the climate maps to be pretty fun. But by the time I've actually gone through and modeled the winds and all those sorts of things, the actual doing the climate can be a little tedious, because for me it's like, well, I already know what it's supposed to be, so why do I need to do it? So for my personal project, the Hade project, that tended to be, just something I wanted to do for fun for myself. But for this, I have the excuse of it being, something that people are going to be seeing in a video. And, world builders are supposed to have climate maps. If you don't have the experience, it could be hard to visualize it based on data, just like the precipitation maps. Yeah, does help to have the maps. And I do go through the process of doing the little precipitation maps and things. I think I do have some layers for that here. Let me check. Yeah, there we go. You know, I do have these pressure maps are from my my world map that I had made previously, and then I just kind of got the winds from there and added those on. So we can actually see how we can actually see how the how the climate system works just kind of from this here. So let me turn on January for a second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So in the southern hemisphere summer, because most of this is in the southern hemisphere. Where's the equator? There's the equator. So, you know, it should be kind of more like that. So in the southern hemisphere summer, we do have the ITCZ kind of, where's a good ITCZ color for a moment? We do have the ITCZ kind of come, yeah, let's do it on the equator. We do have the ITCZ kind of going along here. And the reason why it's not hugging close to the shore here is because the water is much warmer in this area here. So it's kind of shifting along here. And of course, precipitation is coming from the ocean, and it's going to be kind of filling in this area, which is why I have that kind of done. So you can see these blue areas are going to have precipitation in them. But in the southern hemisphere's summer, southern hemisphere's winter, the southern hemisphere's winter, there we go. Let's just make a new layer. In the southern hemisphere's winter, what we have is a low pressure zone kind of forming up here. And then that kind of goes down there anyway. And all of the precipitation up here is coming up there. And because, you know, this distance here is, I don't know, between 750 and 1,000 kilometers, you can still get a good amount of precipitation up there. So yeah, that's why in the winter, this, you know, kind of all of this gets precipitation where it would not in the summer. And the reason why it wouldn't is because we have these strategically placed turned it off, is because we have this strategically placed mountain in the way here, so that the precipitation just can't get there. And that's really the only way that you get the kind of AS climate, you know, tropical, dry summer, wet winter climate. That's really the only way it would happen, because otherwise you're going to be getting precipitation flooding in regardless. So you do need some sort of barrier in order to create those kind of AS situations. And Jake, I don't know if you'll be doing a climate map. Oh, I think you did do a climate map for the Mihirong world. All right, so now let's rename CFC. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's start down here. So we want, what is it, around 1,300. So that would be halfway through the yellow. So That's pretty big. Bye, Madeline. Oh, Jake, I tried. I was sort of hoping someone with more experience would check it. Well, I mean, if you want to send it my way at some point, that's fine. Yeah, that looks about right. Me and Miles both made them at the beginning and disagreed a lot on what would happen. Well, I guess that's the the pitfall of doing it with two people, because I mean, a certain degree, it is kind of based on taste. So it's not always gonna. Some things you will just have to kind of choose arbitrarily. Not necessarily arbitrarily, but you will have to make a decision at some point, and that can change the outcome of your climate map. Let's get rid of the equator. Equator means nothing. What do we got here? Because then this is a bit bulbous. Yeah, we can go up here. Sure. But I mean, your Mihirung world is also fairly tropical, so it's kind of you've got a lot fewer variables that you have to kind of worry about. Where's that go to? Yeah, because it would go up to around 2000. You can sum what you have. Yeah, that's great. Send me what you have. I'll have a look. I think the main. The main things you'd kind of. May want more. ET kind of going along here a little bit. Or. This is 2000, and it is kind of steep. So how far do I want? It's 3,000, kind of all the way to the end here. So maybe. But, I'm quite happy with StreamYard now that I've used it a little bit. My computer is very angry, though. Because my computer is. How old's my computer? About this Mac. Yeah, I got it's a 2020 MacBook Air, but is it Air? Yeah, it's a 2020 MacBook Air, but it's the battery's kind of going on it. I think I'll have to replace it. There's a kit I can get to get a new battery, but right now I have my iPad plugged into my computer, and QuickTime is doing a recording, and that video recording is using the iPad as the camera so that it can see what I'm doing on the iPad. I think this is kind of a janky MacGyver situation, but when I tried to AirPlay it, it just kind of wouldn't have a window, so I couldn't look at what I was doing or stream it while also, doing this. So that is why I'm suffering through this particular setup, but it seems fine. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Oh, I think you sent me what you had. I think I heard a beep boop. Yeah, there we go. Of course, I want to add friend. Here's a climate map for the archipelago. Oh yeah, it's a Discord message, so other people can't see it. But oh yeah, about the half size of Greenland. That's what you mentioned on the stream. I don't know what the various colors mean because you've got pink in there, and that's not necessarily a traditional. Oh, unless it's supposed to be the desert. Friend, yeah, of course we're friends. Of course I'm gonna friend you. We've streamed together, Jake. Yeah, I'm gonna probably. The base map was marked for altitude, and I just put a transparent layer on top. I see. But yeah, if we're assuming Earth, let me save image. Come on. Jake and Miles. Save. We streamed together, so we were friends in the eyes of the piss gods. Yes. The elk piss gods. Very specific. See, I didn't see that. I didn't watch that part of the stream, so I did not see that until later. So people were talking about that as an inside joke and totally missed me. Jake, do you mind if I throw that up on the stream? That map up? You've got it's earlier where you are. Yeah, it's almost 4 o'clock, 3:45. Oh, go ahead. Fantastic. All right. I'm going to remove this. Stop screen. Share screen. Great. Share screen. There we go. Oh, never mind. There we go. All right, there's like 3 steps I need to take here. And you can see my little cursor. Excellent. Yeah, so this is 15 degrees north. Yeah, Sakakikip in a Wakyu D3 Wiki. Yes, I remember that from the streams as well. Hello, Oral Anomaly. So, Jake, where is plus 15 north? Is this plus 15 north? And I guess the kind of bottom edge here would be the equator. Because in that case, yeah, I guess all this would be tropical. And if it's half the size of Greenland, correct. Great. I'm correct at something. So the winds would be coming from that way. Be kind of moving in that motion, just kind of, that motion across. So in the winter, you would probably, so that you'd get precipitation from here, so from the north, you would certainly be getting precipitation. You may have a high pressure zone in here, which would be kicking wind this way. Yeah, I mean, they'd probably be pretty wet all year round. This area, more so, especially because you have the orthographic winds. The interiors here may be drier. Black hole of dryness. The interiors here may be drier, just because if you have winds coming from here, they're going to be catching on this topography, depending on how high it is. I don't know how high it is. So inside this topography, you may see, that's very useful. You may see BSH, I guess. That is a hot semi-arid climate. They're as high as the Andes. Yes, okay. So inside this area where you have this elevation going up here, you may get hot semi-arid climates, just because, if the wind's coming this way, it's going to have to go up over your Andes, and they will dump the precipitation before it ends up on the other side. So that is one thing to think about. In the summer, this would most likely be a black hole, have a low pressure zone. And in that case, high pressure zone goes like this, with the winds coming out, right? Winds are coming out is a high pressure zone, but it reverses. So the winds aren't going out this way, they're going in like that. Rain, shadow, legends moment. Yes. So in the summer, you may get a low pressure zone in here, and that would cause the rain to come in like this. So you may still get like a semi-arid zone in here. Yeah, I think you get a semi-arid zone kind of in the shadow of these Andes, just because in the summer in the winter it'd be coming in that way, and then in the winter it would be coming in across here, and then in the summer you'd be getting it from the back. So this Andes here would be a pretty significant rain shadow. But you'd probably have a AF along the sides here, transitioning to an AM, like a monsoonal climate, and then I suspect an AW before it transitions into BSH. Let's go back to movie recording. Bam. Oh, getting some bleep bloops. Waving to Jake. Oh, there's a whole Bobaverse map. I don't know if you want me to share the Bobaverse map. I don't have anything. It's a WebP image. That's a very strange file type. It's just gray when I open it. Maybe you want to send me a... add a stage. There we go. Yes, it's very strange. It just sends it to me as a Boba. Yeah, it doesn't send it to me as an image file, which is odd. Does this slowly drain my battery? It does slowly drain my battery. Okay. Good to know, good to know, good to know. Forgot what I was doing. Here we go. think my computer was unhappy with me and acted out of revenge. Sometimes they do that. Oh. Oh, it's a very big file. Oh, I see your Boboverse map now. Okay. Just gotta. All right. Let me remove that again. Stop my screen. Add a new screen. Oh, it took a sec. All right, Bobaverse. This is the Andes. I see. This is in the Andes. Yeah. So, I see. Kogarten. There you go. Sibumwo. Oh, okay. And there's no. Oh, it's not showing anything because I have to add it to stage. Brilliant. Hi, Miles. Jake said it was okay. You can blame Jake. So, what do we got here? Yeah. So this is what, 15? I don't know. There's no. Hi, Kairos. There's no latitude. So I'm not quite sure how high some of these are. Yeah, it is a very beautiful map, Auroral Anomaly. That's true. The top is around 60. Okay, so 0 to 60, right? The mortal sin of not including a key. Yes, it is, you know. You don't need to have a key when you're working on something because, it's for you. But if you're showing other people, you need a key. I assume these may be glaciers or something like that. Your friend, Roofed Octopus. Oh, that's nice of them. Yeah, so you've got these mountains here. This is probably a very complex orogeny, sort of Himalayan-esque. You've asked for a key to be added. Good. Rooftop octopus. Okay. I can see how that works. And yeah, so this is kind of Andean, sure. Subduction. Yeah, so here you could have slightly higher pressure in the winter, but I mean, regardless, like there'd be a high pressure zone in here. You'd have a high pressure zone in this area, and it may just kind of shift up and down here depending on the season. And yeah, so then you'd have winds going this way. The winds would also be coming that way. Yeah, that's fine. As far as the low pressure goes, yeah, your low pressure would probably rise here. This is what, 15 is here? Water boots. Oh, well, I'm just thinking about where your high pressure zone would be to figure out where your winds would be moving. Because you'd probably be getting. Yeah, I think it was around here. But yeah, and then that's 60. So what, 15, 30, 45? Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, there would be a lot of water because you are in the tropics here. It's very humid. It's very hot. The surface temperature of the water being very warm means it's quite easy for it to be kicked up. picked up and deposited elsewhere. And then in the summer, you would have the ITCZ kind of rising up. So you could probably expect there to be a lot of low pressure in this area, though, your 30 is about here. So yeah, I think the low pressure zone would probably coalesce in this area. I mean, you do have, these two mountains would probably, these two highland areas may provide some extra oomph for that. But you want to map through it in a bit more detail, because then that would be coming this way. Yeah. You do have a very interesting shaped continent, so may not necessarily get the same sort of Mediterranean, because if this is coming here and that's kicking that way and then swooping this way, yeah, so like that could be, yeah, you may have some Mediterranean in here and then desert. I don't think you'd have too much of a monsoon or anything like that. Just because of the shape of the continent is very skinny, but then also this at 30 degrees, where is it? Like, here. Yeah. But this is only, one part of the system, right? Like, you still have a bunch of longitude to kind of look at, and then there's the other side of the planet too. When we have a map key, I'll have another go at climates and send it your way. Yeah, that'd be great. McCain. Hi, McCain. You still need to make fixes to your world's Copen map because it's not completely happy with the result. Yeah, I can understand that. All right, so we're going to put that away, and we are going to go back to movie recording. There we go. This is working through Dove. So this is the map. This is just my reference image here of the very noodly looking topography. McCain used a mix of Artifactian and Madeline James's method, but if I compare it to Earth, I feel like it doesn't totally work. Yeah, you may find that there are some differences in the methods. I mean, I've talked to Madeline before about her method not necessarily capturing how the sort of pressure systems and how low pressure especially works for when you're trying to do the tropics and things like that. Of course, there's also limitations for the world building pasta guide as well, which I've mentioned before. I think they're reasonable limitations given you only do the high pressure zones, and then modeling low pressure is kind of left up in the air. But modeling the pressure zones definitely takes a degree of, I guess, instinct. I guess. And then when I did precipitation for Edgar, we didn't really provide a method for that. We just kind of did it, and and that was that. So, and I currently don't have plans on making a precipitation guide. All right, so hypothetically, January, yeah, so that would be winter. That's interesting. And summer. Oh, yeah, so winter and summer. So it would get precipitation all year round. Great, great, great. Oops. Miles, shape of the landmass reminds me of the Crimean Peninsula. I was thinking about the Crimean Peninsula. I was also thinking about just the Indian subcontinent in general. I was looking at a bunch of peninsulas. I do like the look of the Crimean one. Again, I finally found things got too wet, and also cold currents don't really work the way the Canary Current does. Yeah. Maybe the horses are wearing cardigans, not jumpers then. Oh, they can wear they have jumpers. I mean, they're enjoying climates that are quite quite cold. Not particularly moist either. What is July? July in there, that's the summer. Okay. That's interesting. All right. So then I'm going to stop with that one. We are going to add CWC. Great. Horse hoodies. Yeah. Well, I was thinking that in the winter they have a bit more of their fur, or maybe the fur on their backs kind of grows out, like their pants grow out a bit more. Jake, I got my wires crossed. There's a famous Earl of Cardigan who fought at the Battle of Balaclava in the Crimean War. There we go. Yeah, so maybe they do have cardigans. None of them are earls, though. They're not earl positive. What did anyone think about the earls? That's what the earls were saying. I accidentally got some color not where I meant it to be. Yes, I did. All right. There we go. That looks fine. Kind of. I do think it should be more like that. Brilliant. There we go. The chicks weren't fond of the earls. Well, and earls are interesting because England was a bit more centralized in the medieval period than other polities, and the king actually appointed the earls. So the earls aren't. Yeah, so the earls didn't necessarily inherit their positions, though if someone was an earl, usually their, son, nephew would also be an earl. But that earl but they would be appointed to ideally they would be appointed to a different earldom. So, if you were an earl and your son would likely be an earl, but your son would be appointed to a different earldom than you. And they did this in order to make sure that, the earls didn't consolidate power. But the earls were also landowners in their own rights. Had a lot of their own had a lot of their own private land and private wealth, because a lot of that was still privately owned. Miles, I have to go make dinner, but this is a lovely surprise. Thank you, Miles. I just thought I'd throw this out to see if it was working, and it looks like it is working, which is quite nice. What else do we have here? 0.5 kilometers, that's 18 degrees. That would also be where the step starts then, wouldn't it? All right, well, let's do that then. Boop. Yeah. No, not Baker. BSK. That's what that is what I want. I want BSK. And so all right, and let's look in here. I'm gonna get rid of the AF for a while. Don't need that. What is going on? AM. That is certainly not AM. I don't know what I was thinking. That is AF. There we go. Swings and roundabouts. Okay. So, yeah, that is going to go here. And this kind of, yeah, it does swing out, doesn't it? And that goes behind there. And that swings around there, and we can drop that in. Perfect, 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 perfect. Yeah, I do like Mahirung World. I think that's pretty great. Very excited to see where that goes. And what are we doing here? I don't know. A bunch of this may just become tundra, depending on the precipitation. May not be wet enough for CFC. Well, now it may just move into tundra. I feel like we now need to properly develop it. Invite Patrick to make a lang in yours. Oh, that's cool. All right, so now we've done BSK. I can do rename BSH. BH stands for hot. And there's going to be a couple BSH zones, I suppose. BSH in here. BSH is going to be in here, and it's also going to be in there. But I like kind of working one quadrant or one area at a time. I feel like you invite a lot of chaos into your world methods. I really have. But I can use it probably. Also, we can't do much damage. What is that? There we go. So we are going to Let's make that a little smaller here. August K. So do deserts on the primary climate map. I always get a layer down that is just temperature-based climates, and that add more layers for seasonal precipitation, SW in deserts. I'm doing everything on a different layer, but I already know where the deserts are going to be. I think I mentioned this before in the stream, but I already did a sort of precipitation and temperature maps and things like that. That is what I kind of based this map without the climate stuff on. So I already did a sort of climate map prior to doing this. So I already know where the deserts are going to be, and I have a decent understanding of what the temperatures are and how much precipitation places get. Yeah, and I also made it so that this place has deserts on. Okay, show me the deserts. I also made it so that this place has deserts on both sides of these mountains. So the idea here is that this subcontinent is pretty separate from the landmass that it's connected to. And so I did in advance make sure that there would be both, these mountains that help block things off to sort of create a very distinct bioregion in the south in this equatorial continent. And to do that, I had to be very particular with the orientation and the placement of these so that the winds would move in such a way to create these deserts, because the deserts will help decrease the amount of biota from the bioregions to the north from getting into the south. Let's just go all in here. But I'm not just shooting from the hip. First time watchers, so I'm finding out your process now. Oh, that's great, Kay. Yeah, so I also, for example, have these. So this is the wind map here, and I also have a pressure map that I made in advance on the world map that I brought into here when I imported it. You can actually see some of the rough wind arrows from that as well. And then I kind of did some more in detail here just to remind myself when I'm doing some of the climates and some of those transitions. And also, August, I'm a first-time streamer, so you've hit me right at the best point. And the same thing for the summer in the northern hemisphere, which is winter in the southern hemisphere. And so I already kind of know what my precipitation maps are going to look like. I've done them up rough. I was checking your process videos for how you did those. How we did the Mihi rungs? Miles wants to keep putting placental mammals in the biome. No, we need to keep the Mihi rungs. We lost them on Earth. We can't also lose them on, you know, Booba World, the Boobaverse. Oop. And I will probably do... All right, now we are going to BWH. Let's do that now. Boom. And yeah, right here. Boop. Oh no. Boop. Eraser. Here. Just get a good idea of the coast. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay. So that's probably going to be... Yeah. Can I do a clipping mask? This is a good question. Clipping mask? Brilliant. There we go. Wonderful. Okay, no, I meant how you did your climate, precipitation, pressure, etc. maps, or you just need to hire you to make my world better. You can just hire me to make your world map better. I am a world building mercenary. But for the precipitation pressure maps, like we don't, Edgar and I didn't do a process for that. I just kind of did it, and then he kept it. So for pressure and precipitation, that's not something I haven't done yet. I'm going to talk about it a little bit when I talk about the physical geography of Dove, which is the first video I plan on launching, which should be in October. Climate, certainly. You can look at the climate videos that Edgar did. We worked together on those. Let's check that again. I believe. Okay. Yeah. So that'd be parallel. Yeah. Oops. August. I used to make really detailed climate maps like this one, but now only do the brush size 4. Yeah, I would agree with doing just broad climate maps. I did another one of those for Dove, and it took, I don't know, maybe a couple of days of work, but I've spread over like a week and a half or so. But because I'm focusing on the subcontinent for most of the... Yeah, because I'm focusing on the subcontinent for most of the video series, I'm just sort of thinking that I'd, it'd be a good idea to spend some more time to figure out the specifics for it. Really, I just think folks should focus on doing what's necessary for them to get the understanding that they need for whatever project they're working on. So I don't think, hyper detailed maps like this are necessarily the most useful thing in the world. Yeah, now I want to look at winter. Where do the winter ones go? Beautiful. All right. So I want... Probably want to do those next. Okay. Okay. Oh, there we go. Add a new one. Clipping mask. Here, let's rename that one. And the K there, no. The K there stands for kalt, because it's originally in German. So if that's where you're wondering where the K comes from, heiß und kalt. Let's actually, can I do that for a sec? Yeah. Brilliant. All right, and we're just gonna here, whoop. What? The clipping mask turned off. That's interesting. Oh, I was doing it on that map. Never mind. It looks all right. There we go. I'll have to check the aridity just to see how far south some of this would go, but I may kick the BWs further north, depending. Like this over here is just going to be BSH. There's not going to be any. Yeah. No, sorry. Yeah, BSH. There may be some BS, whatchamacallit, above it, but probably not all that much. What is it? BSK. Now I'm over here. That's pretty wide, actually. Do I still want to do that? Well, I think it will be pretty wide. Yeah, because it gets colder here, it is going to become... What climate is it going to change to? There's going to be... which side of the equator is that on? Ooh, that's fun. Okay, then. All right. So that is going to have some AS and CS around it, which is going to be interesting. Yeah. All right. Boop. Yeah, it's overlapped. All right. Okay. We are going to start here. So I am doing it on the right one. Good. Oh. Yeah, it makes me on the tundra there a little bit. And then when we look at January, yeah, it's going to be right off the coast, so there's nothing to worry about there. But in July, we've got some precipitation. So at the lower extents there, oh yeah, we're up here. At the lower extents, it is going to be AWS. Do not want that to be a clipping mask. Well, I've bit that bullet for too long. So it begins. Yeah, I had someone else comment on the video with Bib's map in it that having a C, what is it? CSA, I guess, having like a Mediterranean climate next to a tropical climate was unheard of, or at least was it cringe or something like that? It's like, well, you're not ready for Dove then. Because Dove is going to have a lot of that. And then we turn that off, turn this on. Yeah, because then, how was that working before? Swooping here. Yeah, because it's kind of parallel. And there is. Let me just see what the rest of the continent looks like. I mean, Bib's video does justify it. Yeah, we discussed it. I mean, Bib and I are working on it. I mean, the main reason why the CSA is next to the AS is because the climate is much warmer. So what you'd normally see is, a transition from BWH to BSH to CSA. But in Bib's case, because it's so hot, it goes BWH, BSH, AS, CSA. Does that occur on Earth? Yeah, for sure. It includes, as August mentioned, in Ethiopia. It doesn't really happen in Australia. It certainly happens in Mexico, on the west coast of Mexico. You see a transition from a tropical climate to CS climates. That's a change in altitude, of course. Same thing with Ethiopia. It's a change in elevation that's triggering it, because we don't tend to have a lot of tropical climates north of our arid belts, right? So it's largely going to be happening due to elevation, but that's CSB, I think. Oh, CSB and CSA are quite similar. Yeah, I was looking at, what was I looking for? I was looking to check what the shape of the continent looks like. Yeah, so that would just be coming off the land. That would just be coming off the land. Huh. And that is January. So northern summer, it's coming off the land, so that would be pretty dry. What's it happening here? Yeah, so then it would be transitioning to the other one for the summer. Okay, that's fine. That's fair. Whoop. And Australia's the other sea climate on the East Coast. Yeah, I think it'd be like a CW or a CFA. But the transition does happen. It's just a very rare transition because it has to be caused by essentially obstacles, like mountains primarily being in the way, or it's caused by unlikely changes in the or it's caused by unlikely changes to the pressure systems, and you can create situations that you have in like Somalia, for example, where you wouldn't expect on the Horn of Africa to have a desert, but it does have a desert because of the way that the monsoon shifts the air, the movement of the winds and things, which is something that I was doing over here to help make this desert happen. And do we have... Oop, no, okay. Really? Oh, all right then. Yeah, okay. That was a choice I made. Okay, let's look at this then. Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, it's a good choice. I'm happy with this choice. I'm just constantly surprised that I made it. Aha! That's what I was looking for. All right. Oh, yeah, I kind of see where it is. Great. Those are some of the best time choices. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting... I did want this region in here to be CSB or CSA or whatever. I did want that, but the way that I decided to do it by creating this huge plateau had large ramifications for really the amount of precipitation that would be blocked by different directions, and then the way that I decided to do the ITCZ kind of produced this output as well, which is fine. I mean, it's what I chose. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. What the heck? Oops, there we go. Jake, like me agreeing to do another weekly conlaying stream. Quite curious how that'll go, Jake. Sounds fun. Conlaying streams would be fun, I have to say. Now, that is a different color. That is a different color. And that is bothering me. Why is that a different color? I did not want a different color in there. All right, so then at all right, so now I have to make my rename CSC. Beautiful. Boop. Oh, this is going to be... Oh, how much do I care? I do not. It's on this side of the mountain. That is my equator as far as I'm concerned. Should be good. I hope to start with... start will be a bit lower level. I'm going to try to get Maddie to be the best like no one ever was and defeat the Elite Four, Bib, Jess, David, John Q. Tolkien. Just have to convince her verbs aren't so scary. We won't touch them at all. Aw. Are you working on the spell language with Madeline, or are you doing something else? Or is it Pillar World? I mean, you managed to convince Madeline that vowels aren't that scary, which for me, like vowels and tones are the worst part of when I was doing my linguistics stuff. Like, don't give me vowels. Consonants are great. I can do consonants all day. Vowels and tones, no. Yeah, language family for Pillow World. Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Let's get in there with the... Nope. Great. Oh, and she's very clear that we didn't need to add tone to the Korean-inspired daughter language. Oh well. What about the what do they call them in Korean? Those like tense consonants. At least that's what it was when I was learning about it. Different phonations. I remember that was a test on an exam or something. Most people don't associate Korean with tone anyway. Yeah, I mean, especially because like the pitch accents of Japan and the very complex tones of the various Sinitic languages are right next door. I can understand why people don't so readily conflate Korean with tone. Oh, yeah, okay. But then, so this is coming here, so we want it to end around here, I guess. Let's erase that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, looks pretty good. Yeah, August, good luck with your channel. Tried on a while back, but after uploading 6-hour world building time lapse, I realized content creation wasn't for me. Yeah, I don't imagine I'm going to be doing 6-hour stuff. Probably a mix of the world building with some science, some stuff from physical and social sciences along with it. But thank you for tuning in, August. Hope to see you around. Redkey, never even heard of tone or pitch accent in relation to Korean before. How fun to learn. McCain, I've done 6-hour game streams before. It's not too dramatic, but you got to have the time. Yeah, I can imagine myself playing some games for 6 hours. Jake, Busan Korean has 3 register tones, and Northern Gyeongsang has 4 tone patterns. There's plenty to be interested in. Yeah, lots of tone, lots of fun tone. You know what? I don't necessarily need the. I can stretch it. For me, the big thing is making sure that I'm on the right layer. That is my. It's like I can go for a while and then realize that I am not on the layer I'm supposed to be on, which is one of my pet peeves because I have to go back and do it all over again. Or if I can, try to cut it out, but usually it doesn't work out so nicely. Jake, I think making IPA less scary was honestly the easy part. The hard stuff is actually work how you want it to. Yes, I agree. Making the IPA less scary is particularly easy. I mean, it's especially Madeline does a lot of like systems work, being like a programmer and stuff like that. So having that kind of knowledge as a just having that kind of knowledge, like knowing how to organize information in a bit of a systematized way, can be quite useful. Like I was pretty shocked by the IPA and stuff like that, but then once it was like, oh no, it's just it makes sense. Like the stuff on the left side of the chart is made with the lips. Stuff on the right side of the chart is not made with your lips, I guess. You know what? AS can go up here. I want it to also be under. There we go. Okay. That's not what I want. I can always change the colors later if these kind of look weird or off. A little bit of articulatory phonetics goes a long way. Yeah. Jake, I don't even remember making a big effort to learn it. Although, once you know enough, Hanzi, learning weird Latin characters is easy enough. Yeah, I don't know. It was just something I was learning when I was. Oh, God, how long ago was that? I don't know, over 15 years ago or something like that. When I was in my undergrad, I was, one of the first courses I kind of took. And learning those sorts of things. So it was a bit of a learning curve, I suppose, but now it's just something that's kind of natural and just something that I know. So it's okay. Now I need that back. Have you just memorized the climate classification, or do you look at some reference to put it in the layer name so quickly? Um, yeah, so I haven't memorized it. I just know what all of the different letters mean, right? Like A is tropical, B is arid or semi-arid, C is the temperate or the subtropical, D is continental, and then E um, is snowy, right? So I just know all those. Um, if you have F is, you have precipitation all year. S is wet winter, dry summer. W is dry winter, wet summer. And then A is hot summer. B is warm summer. C is cool summer. And D is just cold. Very cold winters is D. And then the T is the tundra, and then F is ice. And then K is cold. If it's in the if it's in the second position, W is arid, and then S is semi-arid. So it's, I mean, I don't know if that's memorization, but it's just I know what the characters, all the characters mean, what they sub it for, and I'm able to, and like what differentiates CA climate from a CB climate is that CA climate has the hottest average temperatures above 22 degrees Celsius, and Rudke. It's been so long since I've watched that Refexian vid on it, so to me they're just magical codes. Makes sense, that's easier if you know the system. Yeah, and I teach physical geography as well, and in first year students learn about the Köppen Geiger classification system. It's a very common one that students have to learn. Though the one that I teach doesn't use the same color combinations. It uses what I think are the uglier colors for it. But that's just the one that's in the textbook. We just tell the students that you can use whatever colors you want for the for climate classifications. It doesn't have to be the ones on Wikipedia. I could make the C, these C ones purple if I wanted to. I just have to include it in the key, always including the key. But I understand that a lot of world builders don't necessarily use it on a day-to-day basis, so they don't know what it means, which is fine. Yes, I have said that to the class before. It's like, yeah, you don't have to use these ugly ones. I don't like that transition at all. Nope. There we go. That's better. And over here too. Oh, yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's better. Look at that. That's pretty. Perfect. Boop, 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 boop. So that's what the Scissor Sisters were saying about our maps. Yep. Yeah, training is in linguistics, as well as geography stuff is wonderful new world to me. Very cool stream here. Yeah, thanks. I mean, just coloring some stuff in, but I do appreciate that that's fun to watch. What do we got here? Yeah, it doesn't go out that very far. Interesting. Let's have a Kiki. It's more gay famous than famous. Yeah. And of course, Kiki means, to have a gossip or have a chat or something like that. So when I heard about your channel, I was like, oh, you should have called it Let's Have a Kiki. It makes more sense than Let's Have a Booba. Well, if it's relaxing, I understand that for sure. Oh, no. And I'm on the right. Yes, I am. Oh. This is the most Mediterranean map I've ever done. I don't regret it, but it's certainly going to be a lot of yellow, because if we imagine, here we go. Where's my CSV? Like all of this in here is going to be CSV, and pretty much all this in here is going to be CSA, and I guess all in here is also going to be AS. All of this is going to be AS. This is going to be AS. This is going to be AS. Just have this big band of Mediterranean, tropical, and continental climates throughout the middle of this continent. Certainly a choice. Jake, a kiki is a party for calming all your nerves. We're spilling tea and dishing just desserts one may deserve. The song is didactic. That is very good. You've returned from being partially instructed on the ways of kiki. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully, this doing this is getting stuff ready for the stream. No, not the stream. For the proper video, for the physical geography video, and then after the physical geography video, where we're going to explore the different regions of this subcontinent. There's going to be the biogeography video where I reintroduce, but also introduce a lot of different critters. And then the third one is going to be the introduction of the Dovians, where they came from, and some of their basic cultural stuff. I'm going to talk about the geography of migration and how long it took for people to migrate. And then after that, I'm going to do a little bit of conlanging. I'm going to introduce the broad language families from the two groups of Dovians who have moved into this equatorial subcontinent. A Mediterranean climate with no sea feels illegal. Well, it's Mediterranean because this subcontinent is the middle of the world, middle of the earth. It is the Mediterranean. It's not a sea, but it is certainly the center of the world. The geography of migration is huge. Let's use that's fun. Yeah. And then after the conlanging, I'm going to be discussing the sort of Neolithic culture. I've got some very fun stuff planned for that. Um, I'm going to be talking about um, a lot of the interesting archaeological finds and how anthropologists and archaeologists speculate lithic people organize themselves, and then kind of head towards a kind of Bronze Age, where I'm going to talk more. I'm going to talk about domestication too for the lithic period. Spend a lot of time on the sort of the anthropological perspective of domestication, because I'm sure there are other places that talk about the more biological perspective. But I'm very excited to talk about migration. And how I hope to frame the videos is, here's what the Dovians are doing, sort of describe the world building, present the world building, and then, talk about some of the scholarship and some case examples. And hopefully that inspires people to, look at their own, to find their own case examples and things like that, and to read a bit more widely in the ethnographic and archaeological literature and those sorts of things. Because my day job is being a cultural, historic, and political geographer, and encouraging people to do that sort of stuff is something I really enjoy. That is right. That is right. I want to do the AW first. Okay. AW. No. Great. It's a good thing I only use this for drawing and stuff, because it is not a very great time to write. I like my... There we go. I don't imagine... I'm not going to have very much AW, so I don't really mind putting it on a lower layer. So we have that starting there. What does that look like over here? Because we're in this sort of bend. Oh. That actually makes a lot of sense. Well, that's fine. Oh yeah, this will probably... It can't go directly. Yeah, it can't. And what do I want here? There we go. So that to here is kind of like that. What do we got going on here? I need to find the coast. Geography. Well, the whole thing's geography, but what am I doing? There we go. Why are those like this? Yeah, whatever. It's fine. So, so that would only reach out to there. Okay. That would be more monsoonal. Yeah. It would extend further south. It would probably. No, yeah, it should go. How far is this? It should extend to here. Yeah. Yep. Wonderful. And if you ever make a mistake, you can always just go back and change it. Measure a bunch of times, cut a bunch of times. Especially if you're working digitally, then it really doesn't matter. There we go. Now I can go back to the CWB. And work it up here. Lovely. Yes, I enjoy how forgivable it is as well. I was watching Red Quill mapping for a bit, and being very envious of the of that sort of mapping skill. I was very yeah, because that's going to be monsoon, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Go. Now I'm going to go back here. Nice. Miles. Oh, you're still going. Yes. Hi, Giovanni. Alonso. What world is this? This is the world for the project on my channel, Lands Unknown. This is Dove, or just this one continent. This is just the subcontinent that I'll be working on. developing through the series. I'm going to be doing some very short series on the physical geography and stuff like that, and then get straight to going to the various people who live there, the Devians. Okay, let's look at... Yeah, so I may kick it in a little bit, but... Like the chocolate, not the bird. Like the bird, actually. When I used G-plates and constructed the tectonic history, the landmass looked like a dove. The original landmass looked like a dove, so that's where it came from. I find sometimes it can be difficult to start with certain landmasses, getting yourself oriented with some of those things. So for me, it was just a matter of picking something to go with, and I decided to go with looking like a dove. And you know what? That's what takes sometimes. Are the Devians avian-esque? No, the Devians are not avian-esque. The Devians are more or less like people. They do, yeah, they're more or less just humans. They're human analogs, and that's because I plan on talking about a lot of social science, and I want it to be broadly applicable to the Devians. So the Devians are more or less just people. But yeah, they're not avian or anything like that. In the and the Devians, Giovanni, I have some videos on the channel from the World Building Festival, and the Chariot stream does have some images of Devians either on carts or in chariots. So if you want to see what the Devians look like and how they get around in style, you can also check out the pseudo horses with their jumpers, with their little cute sweaters on. So I highly recommend checking out the Chariots video. The one stream you didn't watch, clearly the best stream, but if you didn't watch it, that's okay. There was so much really cool stuff happening in the World Building Festival. I am glad Madeline decided to actually, ideate on my idea, not ideate on my idea, to implement my idea. It was a very good idea. You know what? I may kill the BSK here. There we go. And what am I going to do to fix that? The monsoon. Excellent. Monsoon climates. There we go. Oh, nope. Wrong layer. Wrong layer. I have to pick a different color for CFC. It looks too much like CWC. That was a problem. Really like your joint stream with Bibloridian. Thank you so much, Giovanni. What was everyone doing? Everyone was doing world building stuff. Rudke, the cherry stream is the one you missed. Oh, you should check it out. I really like talking about chariots. If you ever wanted to know stuff about chariots, that's the stream to watch. To be fair, though, Jake, I think everyone else was sleeping because that was kind of the end of the day. Oh, you like the one with Bill Gritting? Yeah, that was pretty great. I essentially did a personalized lecture about state formation and polities for Bib, because Bib is a zoobiologist and knows a lot about zoobiology, and I've asked Bib questions about that sort of thing. So, need some help with the talking about culture building, where states come from, what's a city, those sorts of things. You wish chariots played a bigger role in warfare after the Bronze Age. That's true. I wish they did as well, though they did play a pretty big role for a few hundred years during the Iron Age in the I guess West Asia, Mesopotamia. They played a pretty big role in South Asia, and in East Asia, particularly in China. They played a large role. In China, in particular, for longer than in the Mediterranean world. That's right, Connor. You could be watching Chariots right now. Nobody's stopping you from watching Chariots. Well, I guess this stream's happening. Okay, if you count the chariot rigs to find the standard for railroad tracks, they still play a large role. That is, yes, if we... but I do talk about chariots in a bit of a... Wait a minute. Is this CFC? That is CFC. All right, so wait a minute. Oh, yeah. Okay. So that is going a bit too high. All right. There we go. Do I have a CFB layer? I do not have a CFB layer. Very interesting. Very important. Yeah, so chariots did play a pretty large role. I mean, even so, the Neo-Assyrians are Iron Age, and they are around after the turn of the first millennium BCE. And while they did innovate cavalry, which I talk about in the video, how they originally did cavalry, which is pretty funny, they did continue to use chariotry for quite some time, until Cub, no thank you, until they decided that they were, I guess, over chariots. But it's a long process until they stopped using chariots. And of course, chariots continue to appear into the Iron Age, and there's a handful of different kinds of chariots that, Alexander as well as the Romans come into contact with. And they're usually, is that the right color? They are usually kind of, yeah, that's the right color. They're usually scoffed at, like the scythed chariot, for example, is not seen as particularly useful. But that says a lot more about the... We don't really have that much on the scythe chariots and their use and those sorts of things. And when they were used in combat, they seem to do about as well as one may expect. Though, in the battles where the authors at the time say, oh, the scythe chariots didn't perform very well. The entire army didn't perform very well. So to blame specific losses or on scythe chariots is kind of reading into it a bit too much. Do you have a CFB layer? It's more likely than you think. Now I had to make one. Ignoring the fact that elephants are my favorite animal and hate the abuse they went through. I think it's cool how they're a part of ancient warfare as well. Yeah, elephantry is, I think, super cool. And it is somewhat an extension of the logic of chariotry, where you did have elites, um, using elephants as essentially a way to place themselves literally above others on the battlefield. They also functioned as archers, um, from the tops of the elephants, right? So you do have that same logic of having the elite archer, um, especially in South Asia, where that was exceptionally important. Uh, we don't, and the thing is, we don't get too much about them from a lot of records that we would be reading in um, in Europe, just because when Hannibal brought his elephants, they all died in the mountains, and when the Romans encounter elephants in the east, the Romans have a very well disciplined military that is full of heavy infantry and people with pilum. So they could just kind of reform around the elephants or throw pilums at them. I mean, the Greeks, similarly, once they understood what they were dealing with, um, because the military their military systems were quite different. Uh, but to be fair, when Alexander, uh, didn't make it all that far into South Asia, it was they saw an army standing waiting for them, and it was full of elephants and chariots and other things, and they're like, you know what? Maybe we'll go home. Though there's a lot to say about Alexander's logistics as well, because he was operating very far away from his base of operations, and he was running out of soldiers. So he was not having a very good time, and they had a little bit of a mutiny. What's the implication of infantry? We're riding infants? No, it's just every different kinds, of every different kind of unit has the re at the end. Um, Indeed. I also wonder whether now these extinct North African elephants look like. The species subspecies went extinct, apparently. Yeah. I think they were larger than the Asiatic elephants, but that is about the limitation of my knowledge. Hmm. Maybe. Maybe we've already conquered the whole world. The elephant riding army isn't there if we don't draw them on the map. That is fair. Here be elephants is a very important part of any map. Yeah, I'm gonna erase that part of the tropics. But I did really enjoy doing that stream with Bib. I thought it was a good time. Can I go under? Yes, it can. Brilliant. Okay, let's just drop that in. Whoop. Unless the elephants would be supplant the Mihirungri. I don't know if elephants would supplant the Mihirungri. I think Mihirungri are pretty great. Maybe they'd supplant the Mihiria tree, but we know that elephantry and chariotry and cavalry all operated side by side in the same military system in South Asia. So don't count out the Mihirungri and the Mihia tree. Speaking of animals, what's the fauna looking like on your world? Is there any unique animals there? Yes, I think a lot of them are going to be very, very weak spec bio. I'm not a spec biasist. Whoops. So, more. Why is it doing this? So what we are, is it on the wrong layer? No. Oop. Something's on the wrong layer. Let's see what's going on here. So there are going to be a variety of different... Oh, it's not connecting all the way. I see. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. Boop. Perfect. Yay. All right. As I mentioned before, there are pseudo horses. There are also some water buffalo looking guys. But all of the animals essentially come from more of like a monotreme ancestor, and I decided a while ago that a lot of them would be oviviparous. So like they are egg laying, but they retain the eggs inside themselves, and some of them become viparous, I guess. Again, not a biology person, so some of them lay, some of them give birth to live young, and others maintain eggs inside themselves and then give birth to live young. But they're more or less monotremes. I'm sure some of these monotreme are going to have eggs. Very interested in that. I've already done some of the art for some of the different species, including the pseudo horses, for example. Lands Unknown confirmed Swifty. I do. I really like Folklore and Evermore. I don't like the more recent album, and some of the earlier stuff is bops. But Rise of the Monotremes. Yeah, so a lot of them are going to be monotremes. I mean, I do have. This will work, right? Yeah, here we go. Cool. Right. So there we go. So there's this guy is a little platypus that grew into a water buffalo. You can see he's got 3 toes on each foot, and he's got dew claws on the back. He has this is the first one I drew, so he looks kind of derpy, but that's okay. His beak has hardened, carcinized, and it is now there for chewing a variety of different plant matter. And then the beak has also grown back into this horn structure. And then we've got, this is the other little guy here. See, this one I think is much better. So I'm going to redo the other one now that I, kind of know what I'm doing. And this is the pseudo horse. He's, as you can see, they're kind of in a related family of organisms, except he only has one major hoof. However, there are some reduced toes on the side that you can see these little claws here. And this is what you can mean by the jumper, right? He's got the little sweater on. And he too has this beak that he uses for munching on various grasses and shrubs and things. Tripod horse. Well, I mean, yeah, each of the hooves, I suppose, has 3 fingers on it. It'd be cool if they had echidna spikes. There are some that will have echidna spikes. And so here's another iteration of the little, what was it, Tawankei platypus guy with a different horn. I didn't really decide on how the horns are going to look. There's a Dovian in a cart having a good time. The two front legs are not fused. He's just kind of standing like that. They are different colors. Miles, look, there's shadow there. There's shading. Come on, Miles. That's not on me. So then this is a chariot of the Riverlands where it's warmer down. Well, no, this is the Riverlands. I guess this is the desert basin. This is a chariot from the desert basin, and as you can tell, their pseudo horses don't have jumpers because their pseudo horses have adapted to the warmer temperatures. And then these pseudo horses are from the Ravenian Highlands, and they still have their jumpers. Yes, I love how it looks like a helmet too. I'm very inspired by Cubone. So there's no shading if you don't look at it. That's true. The people of the Buba versus Plains riding their tripod horses into battle when? Yeah, where are your tripod horses? Miles, get on the tripod horses. Well, we can drink the essence of elk whilst we ride. Anything can be a tripod horse if you're drinking the essence of elk. I'm fairly certain. What are we drawing on here? Oh yeah, no, that's bad. That's bad. Here we go. How are we going to do this? Did I do that for real? I did do that for real. Okay, well, that's fine. There we go. Brilliant. I just need to figure out how much I want the rainforest to extend. Because if I'm looking here, it has that black. The black line is fine. Yeah, no, that looks about right, actually. Okay. Will it draw on top? It will draw on top. That's unfortunate. What do we got in the chat? The carnivorous monotremes must be very interesting. Yes, I'm excited about carnivorous monotremes. I've been doing some work on those. The Dovians are also going to have a domestic animal that is not from the subcontinent, because the Dovians, of course, are not from the subcontinent either. They migrated here. So they bring an animal with them, but all the other animals are more or less going to be part of the bioregion that is kind of unique to this subcontinent, which includes a lot of these kind of monotremic creatures and maybe some marsupial adjacent creatures. I don't know. That is something that I'm still thinking about as I'm honing in on the designs of the various animals. But there will be creatures with echidna spikes. I guarantee it. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for those ones. Giant echidnas. Some of them will look like griffins. Yes, there will be some griffins. I'm very excited for the griffins. In the Booverse, we have fluffy monotremes and little doggy terror birds. Imagine if anyone came out of the subcontinent. What a strange idea. Well, there is some people do leave. The chariots do leave the subcontinent. They're innovated here and then spread. So people do leave with the chariots. And at some point, more people will show up. When they show up, I don't know. It'll probably have to do with when I get bored with whatever conlings I'm working on. Need new conlang. That'll probably be the main reason why new people show up. But I plan on making some conlangs that are interesting enough to me that I can work on them for a while. Out of dove hypothesis confirmed. Well, because where is the whoop? That doesn't show anything. No, neither of these shows anything. All right. This is in the avatar, of course. Add tone, you'll get all the viewers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a register tone. Maybe just 2 tones. Essentially, I think the people come from over the side of this horizon here. So they are going to be going to dove. But yeah, I'm sure there are going to be Dovians at some point who claim everything important ever that exists came from dove. And those people would be exceptionally annoying to all of the other people on the planet who are trying to like figure out, you know, their roots, their ancestry, where they came from. Southern Passage. Oh, maybe. Interesting island chains. Yes, because it's coming together as a supercontinent. There are some wild island chains from all of the different plates kind of coming together, overlapping on themselves, closing old crust with new crust. Are there flying monotremes? Yes, there are flying monotremes. How do they fly? You'll have to find out, but there are flying monotremes. There are also flying creatures which are not monotremes. I think that's one of the few non-monotreme adjacent animals that you'll see. And that's because they don't come from the subcontinent. Rudgy, why didn't ancient boat explorers just leave us their trail marked on Google Maps? I know, right? This is very, very unfortunate. We could if you recreate bird pterosaurs, but made them monotremes. I don't think I'll have feathers, but I am looking at Patangia. I think that's the term. Again, not a biologist. But you know, I'll talk to some spec bio folks just to see that my stuff looks reasonable. And so far, you know, my little monotremic horses and water buffaloes and things are reasonable. So I'll just continue making things that are reasonable, and we'll have a good time. Nothing's going to be too out of this world, and I'm not going to do any magic, so nothing's going to be like breathing fire or shapeshifting or anything like that. But, you know, I think it'll be pretty magical even if they don't breathe fire. Yeah, be fuzzy like bats. The structure of the skin is the metangium. Yes, and I think they can be fuzzy too. You know, they can be fuzzy. Very excited for them to be fuzzy. I do want something that flies that's very big. I do think that would be fun. So something that flies that's very big, that's fuzzy with metangium would be great. Oh, nope, 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 nope. There we go. I'll have to go over this and fix it later, but how's that look, more or less? More or less, that looks fine. Now, here's the question. For my CFC, I think that's above the CV. Yeah, so I can erase some of that. There we go. This, I want a bit more. There we go. Oh, no, 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 no. No, no, no. Okay, there. Get that in there. Jumper horses are pretty magical, I have to say, yeah. I mean, I was looking at Leptopterns, I think. Yeah, Leptopterns. They're an extinct species of animal from South America that kind of looks like ungulates. And some of them look kind of horse-like, so I was looking at that. I was also looking at llamas. I was looking at bison, looking at horses, obviously. So just kind of making a design that kind of drew on some of those things. The monotremes need to be the dominant group of flying animals, so they don't end up like RL bats. I think they may be separated more based on their. Yeah, I'm not going to separate them based on day and night. I may separate them based on being herbivorous or carnivorous. So herbivorous, one group of flyers will be herbivorous, one group of flyers will be carnivorous. You know, there may be some overlap in different omnivorous niches. Have a good dinner, Miles. Ciao. So I think you can, you know, I think, you know, bats, you know, have just kind of found their niches based on bedtime, birds having a bedtime, or most birds having a bedtime. But I don't think that'll be the way I split it. Where are we? Oh, wow, 2 hours. Okay, 2.5 hours. I didn't think I'd be drawing this long. I was just having a good time. I also didn't think that there'd be a dozen people showing up. Did people show up because of the stream, or did they show up because I posted it to some Discords? That is the question. I was referring to achieving larger sizes so you can have big flying guys. Bats don't get too big because birds compete with them. Yeah, that's true. I mean, but there are some pretty big bats. They're the fruit-eating bats, so... Oh, you saw it on Maddie's Discord. You just happened to see the stream. Well, I'm glad you happened to see the stream. It was on the top row of your YouTube, Rex? Wow. The algorithm. All these people trying to figure out the algorithm, and I just show up and it just works for me. Wonderful. All these people talking about the algorithm. It's like, well, have you ever tried just having things work out for you? I'm also quite lucky in that Madeline and Edgar and Bib all recommended that people come watch my channel and subscribe to me and things. So, not all my own doing. To be fair, if people are watching hours of streams and the first thing they interact with on their YouTube channel will like that. That is true. That is also true. I don't usually interact on streams, so I have not done much streaming. Oh, shoot. I have not done much streaming, nor have interacted on many streams. I think I occasionally show up to Madeline or Edgar's streams just to be a nuisance. But more often than not, I'm like working. So, and I'm on the West Coast, so it doesn't always work out to. What am I going to do with this? Just. It's going to be blue. Don't worry about it. And this will be a monsoon. So let's just transition this to a monsoon. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. And then that can be reinforced too. For now, I could make it something else later. That's probably not reinforced though, is it? No, it's probably not. That's yeah. And that's probably not reinforced either, to be quite frank. Ricky, you inhabit the corner of YouTube habitually, so Yell's channel cannot hide from me. Brilliant. Back. Welcome back, Giovanni. Nice to have you. I do think I'm probably going to call it soon. Let's see what I got done today. So I got pretty much all of the northern coast done. I did all of my EF and a majority of my ET. I will probably go back and fix that up a bit, but I'm pretty happy with the EF climates. Let's make that a bit bigger. There we go. Nice. All of the northern coast is pretty much done. I did that transition into here, though I'll probably add more arid desert. I want to have it be arid along the coast. I'll probably decrease the amount of, allow it to be semi-arid around the coast. I'll probably decrease the amount of hot arid, and probably a little bit of the cold arid as well. That seems a bit excessive. And then the Eastern Peninsula is also a little dealt with. I may expand how the arid section of this a little bit. Oh, I missed a spot. Can't have missing spots. That's not good. There we go. Yeah, may need to think about that a little bit. This is at the equator. The equator. Where's my equator? Ooh, bunk. There's the equator. So this is not oriented north, because you don't need to orient your maps north. That is a lie that Big North tells. But this is at the equator. However, how is arid that close to the jungle? Aha! How is arid that close to the jungle? In the northern hemisphere's winter, we've got winds coming. That may be confusing. Let's move this up here. Whoop. In the northern hemisphere winter, we have winds coming off of the continent. And up here, this mountain chain extends pretty far north. So, and I probably will get rid of some of the CFC, to be honest. Let's do that now. No, that's CWC. So, yeah, that should probably... Whoop. Nice. Hey, there we go. That looks good. All right. So we're not getting any precipitation there during the. We're just not getting any precipitation there. And then on this side, we have parallel winds coming along the coast as well. So these parallel winds are creating arid zones, or they're coming off of the coast. And then for the summer in the northern hemisphere, or the winter in the southern hemisphere, we've got a very similar situation where we have mountains here that are blocking, mountains on the east. These kind of spits that come off here are kind of blocking some of the precipitation that would come. And then over here, we have these parallel winds as well. So if we were on the layer, where's that layer? This layer here. Don't know why I changed, but because, if it's coming here and going this way, right, there's no, it's coming off as well. So we're not getting any, precipitation because it's coming off the land. And then we have winds going kind of this way. So we have winds coming over this from the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, they're kind of going that way. So we are getting some precipitation, but not very much, which is why we have the AW along the coast. Though I may check how much that would be. I may extend it a little bit further. See you, Connor. Bye, Jake. But I mean, this kind of angle is a bit better so it's kind of coming this way. So there'd be some precipitation along the coast here. I mean, this should probably be arid, because it's not really getting anything. But I think the savanna could be a tiny bit larger in that valley, but I see what you're talking about. Yeah, so I think it would, because it's coming... I don't think this one is particularly good. It should be more like that. So if it's like this, we could have more here, sure. Like I could extend it up into there, but then we would probably get more semi-arid stretching into there. So, you know, it's the back and forth. It's only, it's only through doing through the process that you actually kind of find what's happening. Yeah, the arrow was wrong. I kept it from an older arrow. That's probably why. So let's get rid of this one. Ooh. There we go. Because when is this? This is so this is the summer in the northern hemisphere, and what's happening in the summer in the northern hemisphere is that we have this pressure zone forming, which is kind of causing these winds to swirl in a way that kind of makes them spin around. And so I'm trying to make that apparent in how they're coming around here and then joining these winds in that motion. Yeah, let's do that quick. AS. Is the AS on top? Yes, it is on top. Is it going to give me my color, or is it going to give me a bad color? So it's going to come. There we go. That's what we want. There we go. And then I can switch back. But I do have, I don't know, a couple weeks to figure out exactly how I want to work it. Because if it's coming down here, it's catching the water and bringing it that way. So then there wouldn't be much along this coast. But occasionally water would be brought in, especially from the orthogenesis. And then we would start getting the movement back in here. So I may extend this a little further south. We'll see. Hi, Rudgy. Nice stream. Looking forward to learning more about Dove. I shall take my leave. Have a great day. You too. Thanks for joining me for so long. You drew your own climate map doing a hybrid between Artifexia and Madeline's guide. It was so tedious, but I'm happy with the result. Wonderful. I'm glad you had such a good time working on it, because I talked to Madeline a bit about hers, but I worked with Artifexian to make that guide. So I'm glad you found it to be useful. It is tedious, though. You had a big plateau in your world that caused a monsoon effect, and you didn't realize you had to redo the pressure zones and the climate. Yes, that is the thing with the plateaus. They really do. They really do cause some of those problems. Yeah, so I could. What do we got here? I could extend that to here. kind of... And I've been pretty good with my layers. I think I made one mistake I need to go back and fix with them, but otherwise. Okay. But yeah, this one will not be. We won't have any hot arid regions inside of it. It'll be pretty semi-arid throughout. It'll be more like India's plateau, Deccan Plateau, and how it's just a little arid, not too arid, just a little arid. Oh, that looks nicer. That's nicer. And I could probably just go straight to the edge here. Yeah, I could. And that would help justify less critters coming over. You don't mind doing climate maps now? I'm trying to have to talk about. Yeah, the topography can be quite a challenge. Yeah, you can see why I did the noodle map with the topography as like a base before I actually did Dove's map here. Oh, I like that. I do like that. I may change it a bit more, but if I go swoop, yeah, I may bring it a little in more. I may bring this a little bit in more. And then let's erase a little bit of that. Nice. And then that's coming through. Yeah. We may just make it. Let's look at that wind again. All right, last thing before the stream's over. What time is it? Yeah. Almost 3 hours. That's pretty good. You know what? No, that's way too big. Way too big. And not big enough. Yeah, that's what it should more be like. Yeah, that's what it should be like. And that's kind of making a quick turn there. Because working on this kind of topographic map, I think I was too crazy in this area with how many ridges and things I did. I think I'm going to tone it down. I may do another pass on it, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with how the the shape of the various lines turned out. Oh, August. Excellent. Really deep topo map while listening. Well, I'm glad this provided you some good listening material while you're doing your topography map. And what is the... If I get rid of this for a sec. Yeah, that wasn't too far off by what I had. I may curl back the semi-yard a little bit, but, or I may extend it on this map. I can always change this map. Nothing's stopping me. Some of these layers somehow made it outside of my climate group. What was I saying about the equator? Yes, it is on the equator, but it's also a cooler world overall. It's more close to our last glacial maximum, which is why we have so much ice right at the kind of right on the equator in the ice fields and glaciers and things like that. It also does change the placement of the pressure zones a little bit, which is why it took a little bit to get those working properly. And I made some changes on the different file that I actually made this map on, which is why some of the arrows don't look quite right. Wonder how tasty monitoring eggs would be. I'm very excited to do some tests with that. You know what? I do. How much? I got 10 minutes. I am excited to test things out. I do want to try some various eggs that we have. I think duck eggs would probably be a pretty good. Undo a race stroke. Good. I think duck eggs may be a good colliery because they do have a lot of fat in them. And so I do think that would be a good analog. Quail's eggs could also be, and other gamey eggs I think would be a good analog. You could have an Easter bunny that actually lays egg. I was thinking about having like a guinea pig or like a bunny-esque critter that lays eggs that the Dovians would have, because why not? Makes their jobs a lot easier. Catching the buggers. Okay. All right. Okay, and now I can go to no. Now I can go to here. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. May have to make it a bit more rugged, but that's closer to what I had in mind. Just getting some general shapes in. There we go. That's looking a bit better. Oh. All right. I think I'm going to call it. Thank you so much to everyone who watched this stream. If you're not already subscribed, appreciate a subscribe and a like. Apparently it helps if you can drop a comment. And for those of you who haven't seen the Chariot or the Polity and States streams, I've got them up on the channel as well. In addition to that, Jake was on here earlier. Jake and Didi and I did a religion stream talking about building functional religions and maybe changing how you think about religions a little bit. That was one that I enjoyed quite a lot, and that's available as well. I also have a Ko-fi that's linked on the channel. And I'm not doing ads or anything like that. And I really enjoy bringing world building and the social sciences and physical sciences to an audience, but any little support helps. I'm gonna set up some sort of membership with private streams and those sorts of things at a later point in time, probably in the new year after I get a few videos out. But you can still toss me a few dollars before that if you'd like. I'll be a little bit more prepared with the next stream, and I'll probably set up a schedule at some point. But thank everyone so much, and I hope you have a great night.